be showing you how to create this nice little scrolling platformer that I made a while back. I think it was last week. And I thought my scrolling platformer tutorial was a little bit unclear. So I made this tutorial on YouTube showing you how to make one because the pictures weren't very clear. So let's just go to a new project, call it tutorial, or call it scrolling platformer, and create two sprites, one called player and one called level. So the first thing we're going to do is make the player actually move and have platforming scripts. And then we're going to make it scrolling. And that's not the way how GriffPatch does things. You can go check out his tutorials. And so the first thing we're going to do is make a nice little player. And I'm just going to make it a little cube or a square with rounded corners because they look good. And yeah, I'm just trying to make it perfect. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is add two variables called x velocity for this sprite only and y velocity. Now, we're going to set them to 0 because we don't want any problems when we start our project. And then add a forever loop, add two ifs, and key right arrow pressed, key left arrow pressed. And then let's add a change x velocity by 1, change x velocity by -1. Now we're going to change x by x velocity, so then we can actually move our player. And now to have friction and to make the player stop, we're going to set x velocity to x velocity times 0.9. And okay, so this script is for smooth x-axis movement, but as you see, there's no gravity. Now we'll put in the gravity later, but for now, let's just make some slope detection. So if touching color black, then change y by 1. Now that's just going up 1 pixel, so it's not really possible to go up any slopes right now. So we're going to make 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. So now we're going to duplicate it again, but this time inside the if loop, we're going to add a change x by x velocity times -1. So this is for some wall detection. Now we're going to add a change y by -5. And now we're going to add some wall jumping. You don't have to do this, but you can. So if key up arrow is pressed, then if x velocity is larger than 0, then set x velocity to -10. Else, so that would be if x velocity is less than 0, set it to 10. So now this is only for horizontal movement. We want some vertical movement. So we're going to set y velocity to 15. So then it actually moves up. That's what wall jumping is. And now we're going to set it to 0. Set x velocity to 0. Now we're going to add in some gravity, which is pretty easy. It's just 2 blocks. So change y velocity by -1, change y by y velocity. Okay, we don't want our player to fall through the floor, so we're just going to add an if touching color black, which is the ground. We're going to set y velocity to 0, but before we do that, we're going to make our player go up. So change y by y velocity times -1. And then add in the set y velocity to 0. Now to add in some jumping code, we should, or let's just design this a bit better. So let's just add in this, and add in this for testing. Okay, so we're going to add in some jumping code, which is pretty easy too. So if key up arrow is pressed, then another if, because we don't want it to be a Flappy Bird game, so I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So set y velocity to something like 13. And so there's like this Flappy Bird game, and in a platformer we don't want one of these. So we're going to add an if touching color, I'd say black. You can do whatever color you want for the floor, but be consistent. You don't want this to be gray or something. And so right now it won't really work. See, I'm spamming it and it isn't working because the player is actually 1 pixel up. So in order to fix this, let's add in change y by -1 here, and then to make it the same before, let's add a change y by 1. So before we check that the up arrow key is pressed, let's change the y by -1, and then once the up arrow key is pressed, then we change by, so no, that wasn't a good explanation, but basically this script, so this change y by -1, so it goes down 1 pixel, and then if you change y by 1 again, then it goes up a pixel. And Scratch only remembers the last script, which is this change y by 1, and then if we add in the jumping code, then the script, and then Scratch will think that we're actually 1 pixel below, so it works. Now the wall jumping works. Let's just text it again, and it's really laggy because my computer is recording, but a way to get over that is to make a new block, call it tick. Now this is after tick-tock of the clock, according to GriffPatch. And then we're just going to add in a broadcast, not the broadcasting wait, just a broadcast. And then, so the new message name is going to be called tick. And when I receive tick, I want it to tick. So when I receive tick, we tick, and then the block tick is over here. Notice we don't have a forever loop because it's already inside of this, which is inside of a forever loop. So now my computer is less laggy, the wall jumping is really smooth, and overall it's just makes the game better. Now inside of this, so for now that's just the normal platforming script. You can also make it scrolling, but it's not that complicated. So when green flag clicked, you want it to go to 0, 0. But in a scrolling platformer, you want the levels in the costume to be small. So let's change it down to 4. and then make some platforms. Okay, so you see this is not an exciting level, but I'll have to make do. Okay, so when green flag is clicked, I want to set the size to 400, but Scratch won't allow that because they don't want the sprites to be too big. So right now the size is 151. It might be different for yours, but mine is 151. So it doesn't work for now. Let's add another costume, calling it Blank. Now this Blank is going to be pretty important, so I recommend you name it in level 1. Okay, so we're going to set the costume to Blank and then set the size to 400, switch it back to level 1. So now the level is, well, big. See, it's 400 and the level name is level 1. See, so it works, but we can't see it because it's at 0, 0 and it's really big. So we're probably looking at the center, which is over here, and so we need to set the position to, well, let's first make this so then we can see it. So we see this big black thing, and that is the start of the level. And right now the X is 717 and the Y is 446. So we don't really need this black rectangle anymore. So let's add a make a variable called scroll X for all sprites and scroll Y and for all sprites. Now let's set them to the X and Y position. So scroll X is going to be 717, might be different for yours. And then scroll Y is going to be 446. Now this is just setting it up. And then we need to make the player, so right now this player sprite is only moving, the player is moving, but the level is not. In the scrolling platformer here, the player is not moving, but the level is. So we want that. The reason we want that is because it's scrolling, and scrolling platformers are called scrolling because of that. Because the player isn't moving. So let's just add set scroll X and make sure it's change. So change scroll X and change scroll Y by and then do X position times -1 and Y position times -1. So this is making the level, so this will make the level move the opposite direction of the player. Now, the player is still like this. There's no change because inside the level, we need to add a forever and then go to X for scroll X and Y for scroll Y. Now in the player block, we don't want the player to be moving with the level. So let's just show you that. Okay, and then let's add a set, go to X0, Y0. So it's not that bad. Okay, so you see we have a pretty decent scrolling platformer now. Now, what do you want if you fall off the ledge? So it's not dying right now. So we want to make the player die if the level, if scroll Y is too small. or in this case too big. So, and we also want it to die if it touches lava. First let's make this level easier because it's impossible right now. And let's add a portal, which is going to be this blue color. And okay, so we made the portal, and now we want the portal to be at the end of the level. So the first thing we want is to make the player die if it touches red or if it's off the ledge. So right now the Y position is 775, but it might be different for different levels. So my understanding is that most people would design their levels as this is the minimum Y position you can get to, this line. So if you put it here, it might be 800 or something, but most people give the platform a bit space to make it look good. So in the player sprite, we're going to add an if, and then an or, and if touching color red, make sure it's either 0 or 100. Doesn't really, it matters actually. And then another, so go to operators and then do if scroll Y, or no, do larger than, if scroll Y is larger than 700, then go to set scroll X and scroll Y to 717 and 448. So we're going to put this at the end of the, so inside of the if block on if you die. So let's just test this out. Okay, you die, you come back. And let's test it for some lava or some spikes. So the way I draw spikes is I make it a square, so hold down shift, and then I just do that. And then you can turn it, but that doesn't really look good. So you can also put it here if you want to be exact, but okay, that's pretty good. Now we want to turn it because right now it's a right triangle and we don't want it to be a right triangle. We want it to be an equilateral triangle. So we just make it longer and then change the size. So then, okay, so let's just go over here. Okay, so you die. Okay, so it works, but I would probably change this to have a color inside to make it look better. And I would make this go to front layer, and so it doesn't look that bad. Okay, so this is the basics of a scrolling platform. You can also do the portal thing, which I'm going to teach you right now. So it's as easy as the dying code. Let's stop it, and let's add in touching color, and then we can use this tool and then pick the color we want. And then I will do next broadcast and wait, broadcast next level. Click OK. Now we're going to have in when I receive next level. So this is, I think I should make a block called position. So let's make a block called position, So then we can use it over and over again. So to find position, that's position. You don't need that anymore. So position, and then when I receive next level position, and then next costume. Okay. Next costume. Okay, so that's basically the basics of a scrolling platformer. You can do other stuff if you want, like add more levels. Okay, so that's the blank sprite, so it goes to that one. So I'm just going to duplicate this and add some bordering levels. Okay, so this is another very boring level. And so it's kind of lagging right now because of my computer. It's recording. And yeah, this is pretty good. A very boring level right here. Get it? Okay. And then you go to the blank costume. You can add more levels. Add a you win thing. Something like that. And you can also make a thumbnail if you want. If you don't know how to make a thumbnail, just name it thumbnail. And then like add a line. Something like this. But it should be better than that. And then the way I make good art is to kind of make it like it looks better than the actual gameplay. So that's how I make thumbnails, because it's easier and it attracts more people. And then I would also add something like scrolling platformer. Scrolling platformer. And then like a by the Codemaster 654. Something like that. And then you can also add spikes. And yeah, that's the basics of a scrolling platformer. I don't know how to make a tail yet. I might have to look into it. And yeah, this is pretty good. Bye.